I was standing on the dock of my cottage in Muskoka, phone pressed to my ear, when my nephew's girlfriend walked up behind me and whispered, "Don't sign anything tomorrow. Check the beneficiary clause. It's not what you agreed to." The sun was setting over Lake Rosso. $38 million had just cleared into my account 3 hours earlier. The sale of my cybersecurity firm to a Toronto conglomerate had finally closed after 18 months of negotiations. I'd built that company from my basement in Barrie 23 years ago, weathered the dot-com crash, survived the 2008 recession, and somehow turned it into something worth walking away from with enough money to never worry again. My wife Margaret had passed 2 years before the sale went through. Cancer. She never got to see this moment, never got to know we'd be secure. That loss made the money feel hollow. But I told myself she'd want me to enjoy it, to take care of the family she loved. Which is why I'd invited everyone to the cottage for the long weekend. My younger brother David had died in a construction accident when his son, my nephew Tyler, was only 7. I'd helped raise the boy, put him through university at Waterloo, gave him his first job at my company. When he said he wanted to go into business for himself instead of staying with the firm, I supported that too. Even invested $50,000 in his startup. Tyler was 31 now. Smart kid. Engaged to a woman named Jennifer who worked in finance, or so he said. They'd been together about 8 months. This was actually the first time I was meeting her properly, though we'd done a few video calls. The plan was simple. Celebrate the sale. Then the next morning I'd sign the paperwork Tyler had drawn up, making him a 50% partner in a new venture I was funding. A cybersecurity consulting firm. He'd run it. I'd be the silent partner. My way of setting him up for life. The way his father would have wanted. I turned to look at Jennifer. She was younger than I expected, maybe 26, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a McGill hoodie, looking every bit the young professional on a cottage weekend. "What did you just say?" I kept my voice low. Through the cottage windows I could see Tyler in the kitchen with my sister Patricia and her husband Ron. They were laughing about something, drinks in hand. "The contract Tyler prepared," Jennifer said quietly. "Page 19, subsection 4. The beneficiary designation was changed. If something happens to you within the first year, his stake becomes full ownership, not joint ownership, with your designated heirs." "How do you know what's in the contract?" "Because I've been reviewing his laptop when he's asleep." She glanced back at the cottage. "My name isn't really Jennifer Morton. It's Jennifer Marchand. I'm an investigator with the Ontario Securities Commission." Well, I was. This started as an official investigation, but it's gotten complicated. My stomach dropped. "You need to explain. Now. Can we walk?" She nodded toward the trail that led around the property. "They'll notice if we talk too long out here." We started walking, staying close to the shore where the sound of small waves would cover our voices. The last light was fading from the sky, and the loons were starting their evening calls across the lake. 6 months ago, Jennifer began, Tyler tried to raise venture capital for his startup. He submitted financial projections that were, let's say, creative. One of the firms he approached filed a complaint. The OSC assigned me to look into it. Small potatoes, really probably would have been a fine and a warning. "But," I prompted. But when I started digging, I found he'd done this before. 3 times. Different investors, different schemes. He's good at identifying people with money who trust him. The pattern was always the same. Make big promises, get the investment, run the company into the ground while paying himself a generous salary, then declare bankruptcy. Clean slate, move on. I stopped walking. Tyler, the boy I'd taught to fish in this very lake. The teenager I'd sat up with when he was struggling with losing his father. The young man I'd been so proud of when he graduated. "You're telling me he's a con artist." "I'm telling you, he's escalated. The previous schemes were $50, $70, maybe $100,000. You're talking about setting him up with $19 million. That's different." "So you went undercover as his girlfriend?" "Initially, yes, to gather evidence. But then he started talking about you more, about this deal, about how much you trusted him. And," she paused, "I found other things. Searches on his computer, forums about how to stage accidents that look natural, questions about carbon monoxide in cottages, life insurance, payout timelines." The loons called again. Somewhere across the lake, a motorboat was heading in for the night. You think he's planning to kill me? I think he's researching it. Whether he'd actually do it, I don't know, but the contract definitely sets it up so he'd benefit. And your cottage is isolated. The propane system is old, there are cliffs, deep water. She met my eyes. Accidents happen at cottages all the time. I'd known Jennifer, if that was even her real name, for all of 3 hours since they'd arrived this afternoon. I had no reason to trust her word over Tyler's. But something in my gut, the same instinct that had helped me navigate business deals and spot security vulnerabilities for 2 decades, was screaming at me that she was telling the truth. Why are you telling me this? Why not just arrest him? Because I can't. Not yet. The OSC investigation is civil, not criminal. I've reported my findings to the RCMP detachment in Bracebridge, but they need evidence of actual criminal intent, not just suspicious behavior. Right now, it's a contract with questionable terms and some concerning Google searches. That's not enough. So what do you want me to do? Don't sign tomorrow. Tell him you need your lawyer to review it first. That'll buy us time. And then? Then we figure out what he's really planning. If he's just a small-time grifter who got ambitious, he'll back off when he realizes he's not getting easy money. But if he's something worse... She trailed off. The cottage was warm with light ahead of us. Through the windows I could see Patricia setting out snacks. Tyler was helping, looking relaxed and happy. My nephew, my dead brother's son. There's something you should know, I said slowly. About 30 minutes before you pulled me aside, Tyler offered to make me a special drink. Said it was a new craft bourbon he'd brought from Toronto. Wanted me to be the first to try it. He told him maybe later, after dinner. Jennifer's expression hardened. Where's the bottle? Kitchen counter. Dark glass, fancy label. We need to secure that. And you need to not drink anything he prepares. Nothing. Not even beer from a bottle, if he's the one who opens it. We walked back in silence. My mind was racing through years of memories, trying to spot the signs I'd missed. Had Tyler always been this person, and I'd just been too blinded by love and obligation to see it? Or had something broken in him along the way? Margaret would have known what to do. She'd always been the one with the people sense, the one who could spot a fake smile or an insincere compliment from a mile away. I was the tech guy, the problem solver for systems and code, not for family. When we reached the cottage, Tyler was at the barbecue on the deck, flipping steaks. He looked up with a grin. There you are. Was starting to think you two had wandered off into the woods. Jennifer, did Uncle Tom bore you with stories about the old days? Just showing me the property, Jennifer said smoothly. It's beautiful up here. Best spot on the lake, Tyler agreed. Hey, Uncle Tom, I poured you that bourbon. Left it on the side table in the living room. Should still be perfect. Thanks, but I think I'll stick with beer tonight. Saving the good stuff for after we sign tomorrow. Something flickered across Tyler's face. Just for a second. Disappointment, frustration, then the smile was back. Sure. More for me then. Dinner was torture. I had to sit there making conversation, laughing at Ron's terrible dad jokes, listening to Patricia talk about her book club, all while watching Tyler across the table and wondering if the boy I loved was planning to murder me. He was attentive, solicitous even, making sure I had enough food, refilling my water glass, asking about my plans for retirement. Every gesture that would have seemed loving 24 hours ago now felt calculated. After dinner, Patricia and Ron headed to bed early. They'd driven up from Mississauga and were tired from the traffic. Tyler suggested a bonfire down by the water, the way we used to do when he was young. Just like old times, he said. Remember when I was 15 and tried to convince you that marshmallows counted as a vegetable because they came from plants? I did remember. God, I remembered everything. Teaching him to skip stones, helping him build that tree house that was probably still standing somewhere in the woods, holding him when he cried about missing his dad. I remember, I said. We built the fire together, Tyler gathering kindling while I arranged the larger logs. Jennifer sat on one of the Muskoka chairs watching us. The night was clear, stars sharp overhead, September in cottage country, the air already carrying hints of the autumn to come. I want to thank you, Tyler said once we had the fire going, for everything, for being there after Dad died, for giving me opportunities. For this, he gestured vaguely. The partnership, the money, the trust. I know I don't deserve it. Of course you deserve it. Your family. He poked at the fire with a stick. I haven't always been honest with you. About business stuff. Some of my ventures didn't go the way I said they did. My heart rate picked up. What do you mean? Just that I've made mistakes. Bad calls. Lost money. But this time is going to be different. This partnership, it's going to work. I can feel it. Tyler, if you need to tell me something, I'm just saying thank you. He looked up, and in the firelight I couldn't read his expression. You've been more of a father to me than an uncle. I won't let you down. Jennifer stood up. I'm going to grab a sweater from inside. Getting chilly. After she left, Tyler moved closer. Can I ask you something? About Jennifer. Sure. Do you think she's trustworthy? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I don't know. Sometimes I get the feeling she's hiding something. Like she's not who she says she is. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Probably just paranoid. New relationship jitters, you know. What does she say she does again? Financial analyst for a consulting firm in Toronto. But I called her office once to surprise her for lunch, and they said no one by that name worked there. When I asked her about it, she said they must have meant her department, but it felt off. So he'd been checking up on her, and she'd been sloppy with her cover. This was getting more complicated by the minute. Have you talked to her about it? Not directly. I don't want to seem controlling or suspicious. But between you and me, I'm thinking about ending things after this weekend. Something doesn't feel right. Jennifer came back with a cardigan wrapped around her shoulders. Tyler immediately shifted gears, suggesting we roast marshmallows, telling stories about past cottage trips. He was good, I had to give him that. Smooth, natural. If I didn't know what I knew, I'd never suspect a thing. Around 11, we called it a night. Tyler and Jennifer were staying in the guest room on the main floor. Patricia and Ron had the upstairs bedroom. I had my usual room off the back, the one Margaret and I had always used. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the cottage settle. Every creak, every sound, made me tense. Was that footsteps? The propane being tampered with? The carbon monoxide detector had fresh batteries. I'd checked them when I opened the cottage in May, but would that matter if someone disabled it? Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Don't drink the water in your room. Check the pitcher. Something's wrong. Using my kit tomorrow to test it. Stay alert. I'd filled that water pitcher myself before dinner, which meant someone had added something to it afterward. When I was at the bonfire. When Jennifer was supposedly getting a sweater. Or had Jennifer added something herself, then texted me to build trust? I didn't know who to believe anymore. The investigator who appeared out of nowhere with wild allegations, or the nephew I'd loved for 24 years? I got up and poured the water down the bathroom sink, running the tap for a long time afterward. Then I wedged a chair under my door handle and sat in the reading nook by the window, watching the lake and waiting for morning. The sun rose over the water around 6:30. I'd been awake all night, running through scenarios, trying to plan. I needed help, but who could I call? The local RCMP? And say what my nephew might be trying to kill me, but I have no proof. Oh, and by the way, his girlfriend says she's an investigator, but I'm not sure I believe her either. I heard movement in the cottage, coffee brewing, low voices in the kitchen. When I finally emerged, Tyler was making breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, my favorite. Patricia and Ron were already at the table. There he is, Tyler said cheerfully. Thought you might sleep in after all that bourbon last night. Didn't end up touching it, I said carefully. Oh right, the beer. Well, hope you're hungry. We've got a big day. Signing that contract, officially becoming partners. He flipped a pancake. I was thinking we could do it here, make it special. Jennifer can witness, Aunt Patricia, and Uncle Ron too. Then maybe celebrate with lunch in Gravenhurst? Actually, I said, I need to push things back a day. Want my lawyer to look over everything one more time. The kitchen went very quiet. Tyler's smile froze. Your lawyer? Just a formality, you understand. 38 million is a lot of money. Want to make sure everything's perfect. We've been over the contract 3 times already. You said it looked good. And I'm sure it is. But Margaret always told me to have a professional review important documents. Call it honoring her memory. Tyler set down the spatula. Are you having second thoughts about the partnership? Not at all. Just being cautious. Because if you don't trust me, it's not about trust, Tyler. It's about doing things properly. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, hair wet from a shower. She looked between us, sensing the tension. Patricia tried to smooth things over. Tom's just being smart, Tyler. That's how he built a successful company. Due diligence. But the damage was done. Tyler finished making breakfast in silence, and we ate with forced conversation about the weather and the loons and whether the dock needed repairs. After breakfast, Tyler said he needed to make some calls and disappeared into the guest room. Jennifer caught my eye and tilted her head toward the deck. Outside, with the door closed, she whispered, "The water. I tested it. Zolpidem. Sleeping medication. Strong dose. He drugged it? Someone did. And I found something else. His phone, he left it charging in the living room. He's been texting someone named Alex, planning to come up here tomorrow night, Tuesday, after everyone leaves. Just you and Tyler, supposedly fixing the dock. But the messages, she showed me her phone, screenshots she'd taken. They're talking about an accident, getting you in the water, making it look like you fell, hit your head, drowned. I read the messages. They were careful, coded in a way that could be interpreted innocently if someone was looking for that. But the intent was clear. Alex is his business partner from the failed startup. They're in debt together. This is bigger than just Tyler. A door opened inside. We stopped talking. Tyler came out onto the deck. "Jennifer, can I talk to you for a minute? Privately?" She glanced at me, then nodded. They walked down toward the water, too far away for me to hear. Tyler was gesturing, his body language agitated. Jennifer kept shaking her head. Patricia came out. "Everything okay?" Tyler seems upset. "Just business stuff. Wedding, planning, stress maybe." "He's a good boy, Tom. I know he can be impulsive, but he loves you. You know that, right?" "Yeah," I said. "I know, but I didn't. Not anymore." Tyler and Jennifer returned, both looking strained. Tyler announced they were going to head into Bracebridge to run some errands, maybe grab lunch there. Would be back by late afternoon. After they left, I called the RCMP detachment. Asked to speak to someone about a fraud investigation, possibly more serious. They transferred me to a Constable Morrison, who listened patiently while I explained, kept it factual, didn't embellish. "Mr. Fitzgerald," she said when I finished, "I'm actually familiar with your case. Jennifer Marchand briefed me about 2 weeks ago. She's legit, by the way. I verified her credentials myself. We've been building a case, but we needed more evidence. Can you forward me those text messages she showed you? So it's real. He's really planning this. Looks that way. I'm going to come up there with my partner this afternoon. We'll park out of sight, wait for Tyler and this Alex person to make a move. With any luck, we'll catch them in the act, and that'll be enough for charges. You want to use me as bait? With your permission, yes. You'll be safe, we'll be close by the whole time. But we need them to actually attempt something for this to stick in court." I thought about it. Thought about Tyler, 7 years old, crying in my arms. Tyler, 17, so proud when he got into Waterloo. Tyler, 25, starting his first business with my investment. Tyler, 31, planning to murder me for $19 million. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Patricia and Ron decided to head back to the city early. Ron had an early meeting Tuesday. After they left, Jennifer returned alone around 4. "Tyler was meeting with a potential client," she said, but we both knew that was a lie. Constable Morrison arrived an hour later with her partner, Constable Kim. They were in plain clothes, driving an unmarked SUV. We went over the plan. I'd stay at the cottage, act normal. If Tyler returned with someone, I'd find an excuse to go down to the dock. They'd intervene before anything happened. "What if he's armed?" I asked. "We'll be armed too," Morrison said. "And we've got backup from the tactical team in Aurelia if needed. But based on the texts, they're planning to make it look like an accident. They won't want anything that suggests foul play." Jennifer was pacing. "I should have reported this sooner. If something happens, you did the right thing," Morrison assured her. You got us the evidence we needed. That takes time. Night fell. The constables positioned themselves in the woods with night vision equipment. Jennifer stayed in the cottage with me, both of us trying to look casual while being terrified. Around 9:30, headlights appeared on the cottage road. Tyler's car. And behind it, a pickup truck. "That's Alex," Jennifer breathed. Tyler came in first, all smiles. "Uncle Tom, good news, I brought someone to look at that electrical issue you mentioned. This is my friend Alex. He's an electrician." Alex was tall, maybe 40, with a beard and work boots. He shook my hand firmly. "Happy to take a look." "Tyler says, you've got some outlets that aren't working?" "That's right, mostly down by the dock. The outdoor lighting." "Perfect. Why don't we head down there now while there's still some light?" "Well, flashlight anyway." This was it. Morrison had said to go along until they made an actual move. "Sure," I said. "Let me grab my jacket." Jennifer touched my arm. "Want me to come?" "No. You two stay here," Tyler said quickly. "Keep the coffee hot. Shouldn't take long." We walked down to the dock, three of us in the darkness. Alex had a toolbox, playing the part. Tyler carried a large flashlight. "So here's the thing, Uncle Tom," Tyler said as we reached the dock. "I know you postponed the signing. I know you're having doubts. Just wanted my lawyer." "Stop lying." His voice was hard now, different. "Jennifer told me you know about the contract. The investigations. All of it." My blood ran cold. Had Jennifer betrayed me? Was she working with them? Alex set down the toolbox. "We can still make this work. Sign the partnership papers tonight, with a witness me. Jennifer stays quiet about the OSC stuff. Everybody wins. And if I don't?" Tyler moved to block the path back to shore. "Then you're a 63-year-old man with a heart condition who tragically fell off his dock in the dark and drowned. You'd been drinking, there's an empty bourbon bottle in the recycling to prove it. Accidents happen. I don't have a heart condition. You will after the autopsy finds the medication in your system. Same stuff that was in your water pitcher. Causes heart arrhythmia, dizziness. Very unfortunate." This was it. They were actually going to do it. "RCMP, hands up!" Morrison and Kim emerged from the tree line. Weapons drawn, flashlights blinding. More lights blazed from the woods, the backup team. Tyler spun around, panicked. Alex dropped the toolbox and ran, but only made it 3 steps before 2 tactical officers tackled him. "Tyler Fitzgerald, Alex Morton, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and attempted extortion. You have the right to remain silent." I sat down hard on the dock, legs shaking. It was over. Tyler was shouting, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. They were just trying to scare me. They never would have actually done it. Alex was silent, probably smart enough to know anything he said would only make things worse. Jennifer appeared, running down from the cottage. She looked at Tyler being handcuffed, then at me. "I'm sorry. I know he was family." "Was," I said, past tense. "The investigation took 3 months. They found everything. The previous scams, the fake investors, the pattern of fraud. Tyler's laptop had detailed plans for staging my death, including research into drowning forensics and life insurance payout timelines. Alex's role was minimal. He'd been promised 20% of the take, but there was no evidence he'd been involved in the previous schemes. Tyler's lawyer tried to argue entrapment, but it didn't stick. Jennifer's undercover work had been legitimate, and the moment Tyler and Alex had made physical threats and blocked my escape from the dock, it became attempted murder. The trial was quick. Tyler took a plea deal. 12 years for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Alex got 8. They'd both be eligible for parole in a third of that time, but would have criminal records forever. I sold the cybersecurity consulting firm concept to someone else. Someone I'd vetted thoroughly through 3 separate background checks. Put most of the money in a trust for Patricia's kids and a few other nieces and nephews I actually trusted. The rest went into a foundation for families who'd lost parents young, something I should have done for Tyler instead of just giving him money and opportunity. Dr. Chen, my old physician from Toronto who'd helped me through Margaret's illness, called to check on me when he heard about the trial through mutual friends. We met for lunch, and he introduced me to a grief counselor. Not just for Margaret, but for the loss of Tyler too, for the betrayal that somehow hurt worse than death. Jennifer Marchand, her real name, it turned out went back to the OSC. We stayed in touch. She'd done her job, but she'd also taken a risk to protect me. That meant something. A year later, I finally went back to the cottage, walked down to the dock where it happened. The loons were calling across the water, the same as always. The lake didn't care about human drama. It just kept reflecting the sky, constant and indifferent. I thought about all the signs I'd missed. Tyler's eagerness to become a partner, his interest in my estate planning, the way he'd always asked about my health, my medication, my routines, how he'd suggested this very cottage weekend, isolated and far from anyone who might intervene. I thought about my brother David, who died when a scaffold collapsed under him, how he'd never know his son had grown up to be this person. Maybe that was a mercy. But mostly I thought about Margaret, and how she'd always known people better than I did. She'd only met Tyler's previous girlfriend once, at a Christmas dinner, and afterward she'd told me, "That girl is using him. Watch." She'd been right. She was always right. "You were right about this too," I said to the empty air, to her memory. "You always said I was too trusting, that I saw people the way I wanted them to be, not the way they were." The wind picked up, rippling the water. Somewhere in the woods, a branch cracked. I pulled out my phone and dialed Patricia. "Hey, it's me. I know this is last minute, but would you and Ron want to come up to the cottage this weekend? Bring the kids. I'm thinking it's time to make some new memories here." Because that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just take the present. It tries to poison the past, make you question every good memory, every moment of trust. But I wouldn't let it. This cottage was mine and Margaret's first. Tyler was just a chapter in its story, not the whole book. Patricia said yes. Ron would barbecue, the kids would swim, and we'd sit around the fire telling stories that had nothing to do with fraud or betrayal or greed. Before I left, I stopped at the local RCMP detachment. Morrison was at her desk, working on paperwork. "Mr. Fitzgerald. Good to see you. How are you holding up?" "Better. Listen, I wanted to thank you. You and Constable Kim. You probably saved my life. Just doing our job. Still, if you'd hesitated, if the backup hadn't been there." I trailed off. "Anyway, thank you." She stood and shook my hand. "For what it's worth, you did the hard part. Trusting your instincts when it meant accepting something terrible about someone you loved, that takes courage." On the drive back to Barrie, I thought about that. About courage and trust and how they're connected. How you can't have one without risking the other. Tyler had been sentenced to 12 years, but I'd been given a different kind of sentence. The knowledge that someone I'd loved, someone I'd have died to protect, had been willing to kill me for money. That doesn't go away when the court case ends. It sits in your chest like a stone, cold and heavy. But I was still here, still breathing, still capable of love, even if it came with more caution now. 2 years after the trial, Jennifer called me. She'd left the OSC and joined the RCMP as a fraud specialist. She'd also written a report on elder financial abuse that was being used in police training across Ontario. Tyler's case had become a cautionary tale, used to teach other officers what to look for. "I wanted you to know," she said. "Something good came from all of it. We've prevented other cases because of what we learned from yours." That's something, I guess. It is. And Tom? I know it doesn't help much, but for what it's worth, Tyler reached out to me. Through his lawyer. He wanted to apologize. What did he say? That he was sorry. That the money had seemed so easy, and he'd convinced himself you wouldn't really miss it. That it spiraled out of control, and by the time he realized what he was actually planning, he felt trapped. Like he couldn't back out without Alex turning on him. None of that's an excuse. No, it's not. But I thought you should know he at least understands what he did, whether that matters to you or not. I thought about it for a long time after we hung up. Did it matter? Did an apology change anything? Maybe not. But it was a reminder that people are complicated. Tyler wasn't born a would-be murderer. He'd made choices, bad ones, and those choices had consequences. But he'd also been my nephew, my brother's son, a kid I'd loved. Both things could be true at once. The cottage became mine again, fully. I spent summers there, brought friends, hosted Patricia's family, even started dating someone I met at a grief support group, a widow who understood loss in all its forms. On quiet nights, I still sometimes walked down to the dock and thought about that September evening. The way Tyler's smile had looked so genuine, even as he planned my death. How close I'd come to signing those papers, drinking that bourbon, trusting completely. But I also thought about Jennifer's whispered warning, Morrison's quick action, the backup team in the woods. How many people had come together to save me, even when it meant destroying a family? Life is full of betrayals, small and large. People disappoint us. They choose money over love, greed over loyalty. But life is also full of unexpected heroes. Undercover investigators who risk their covers to warn strangers. Police officers who take threats seriously. Family members who drive up from the city just to sit on the dock and not talk about anything important. I learned to hold both truths at once. To be cautious but not cynical. To trust but verify. To love but not blindly. And every summer, when the loons call across Lake Rousseau and the sun sets orange and pink behind the trees, I pour myself a drink always from a bottle. I open myself and toast to survival, to second chances, to the complicated mess of family, and the grace of knowing when to let someone go. Tyler will be eligible for parole in a few years. I don't know what I'll do if he reaches out, whether forgiveness is possible or even advisable. Patricia thinks I should consider it. Eventually, Dr. Chen says to wait and see how I feel when the time comes. Jennifer says it's completely up to me, and no one would blame me either way. For now, I'm just grateful to be here. To watch the sunrise over the lake, to smell the pine trees, to hear the laughter of Patricia's grandkids as they cannonball off the dock. To be alive, aware, and finally understanding what Margaret always knew, that love without wisdom is just another kind of vulnerability. And that's okay, as long as you keep your eyes open. The water sparkles in the morning light, the coffee is fresh, and somewhere in the woods, a loon calls out, not sad, not happy, just existing, just being. That's enough. That's everything.